So now the second leg, that is audit. So like we told, there are 3 types of audit. Now it has been reduced to only 2. So one is a general audit and one is a special audit by again a chartered accountant nominated by the commissioner. So these 2 are, the first one, I think a departmental audit, which is a general audit, came into picture in the service tax regime. So a new section 72 was inserted in 28/5/2012 to introduce special audit. So the departmental audit used to be by introducing Rule 5 in 2007, which ran into a lot of controversies, and still it is in controversy because of the validity of service tax audit, whether it is valid or not. So basically, department audit, what it means is audit means examination of records, returns, and other documents maintained or furnished by the registered person under this act or the rules made thereunder or under any other law for the timing in force to verify the correctness of turnover declared, taxes paid, refund claimed, and input tax credit availed. So audit is a very wide scope where basically the intention is to find out if the taxes are paid correctly, refunds are claimed correctly, input tax credit is availed correctly, and whether all the compliances are done properly as per the provision of the act. Document includes all the documents, whether physical or digital. Now, basically, this is the comparison between a service tax law and the GST law audit. So, issuance of notice. So, what the government has learned from service tax, they have rectified in GST. So, in GST, there was no specific form for issue of notice for audit. Whereas in GST, they have brought in ADT 01 and legalized the notice part of audit. How the power came to do audit, it was Rule 5A. So it was challenged in the court of law, and in 2-3 cases it was decided also, okay, service tax audit is not as per law because it was brought in through a Rule 5A. The section or the act did not permit audit, but it was brought through the rule. So in GST, they rectified, they understood the mistake, and section 65-66 was introduced in the law to give power for the audit. Legal dispute, yes, Rule 5A was challenged in many times and struck down as ultra vires. GST audit, no legal dispute. I think it's very clear. It is very much legal. Time limit for completion, since rule were never mentioned any time limit. Service tax law, again, limitation period was challenged. In GST law, it has to be completed within 3 months from the commencement of audit. This is very, very important to understand. Once the audit starts, it has to be completed within 3 months from the commencement of audit. Again, extension of time is there, which will come into who can conduct the audit. So under service tax regime, it can be conducted by an officer authorized by the commissioner. In GST, it can be conducted by commissioner himself or any officer authorized by him. Scope of the audit, not at all defined because that word itself was not there in service tax. So no scope for that. In GST, we have already discussed what is the scope. So audit by department, it can be conducted by commissioner himself or any officer authorized by him. It can be audit of whom? It can be only of registered persons. So if you are not registered, there cannot be an audit. Where it can be audited? It can be audited at the place of the taxpayer registered person or at the department office, period, for any financial year or part thereof. So there was an amendment done recently in 2019. What was the period of an audit? So period of the audit was financial year or multiples. So you can do one financial year or multiple financial years. They have added or part thereof also. So from 2019, they have rectified that because if they come for audit in between, so they can do financial year, part thereof, or they can do a part thereof also. So they can do a 3 months audit, they can do 6 months audit, they can do 1.5 years audit. So it is as per the whims and fancies of the officer, the period can be determined. Auditee will be informed in ADT 01 and 15 working days time minimum will be given to keep the documents ready. Audit shall be completed within 3 months. 6 months, additional extension can be taken by the permission from the commissioner from the date of commencement. So the date of commencement is important. What is the date of commencement? Is it issue of ADT 01? Once he issues the notice in ADT 01, is the audit commenced? No. He gives 15 days time, and once the documents are ready and it is given to the officers, the audit is commenced. So once you give those documents to the officers, then the audit is started. Or if the officer comes to your premises that day, the audit starts. Auditee shall all provide facility to verify books of accounts and other documents and furnish information as may be required. The taxable person will be required to provide the necessary facilities. So you have to provide all the facilities, including tea, coffee, lunch. You know very well what all you have to provide when the auditor comes. So all those things has to be provided, and you have to take utmost care of the departmental officers. Then proper officer may inform the discrepancy. So if after the audit is completed, if any discrepancies are noticed, he has to inform the auditee about the discrepancy. And on conclusion, once there will be a reply, again, a reply from the department. Once the audit is completed, the proper officer shall inform the findings of audit, and ADT 0 will be issued mentioning all the findings of the audit. Once the audit is done, it is only a procedure to complete an audit. A demand cannot be created. You can always see as soon as an audit is over and show cause notice is issued under section 73, 74. So mainly, if you see most of the sections, it is only a procedure to determine whether there is a liability or not. Once the liability is determined, then the procedure of 73, 74 has to be followed for issuing show cause notice and creating a demand. So places where the audit can be conducted, reading section 65(2), it means that audit can be conducted at the place of business where the business is carried on, or where the goods are stored, like godown, warehouse, or any other places. Or it can be at the places where the registered person supplies or receives goods, books of accounts are maintained, and from where a taxable person is engaged in business through an agent. So if business is through the agent, even the agent's business premises are the place where the audit can be conducted. So authorized officers and proper officers. So section 291 defines proper officer, which we already told. So proper officer for the purpose of 65, that also we have told, it is the superintendent of central tax. State, it changes state to state. It may be apt to highlight that section 65 uses the word commissioner or any officer authorized by him. So this is very important. Audit can be conducted by commissioner himself or an officer authorized by the commissioner. So once the audit is completed, section 73, 74 provision will be done by the proper officer. So proper officer is the person who is your maybe jurisdictional officer or the proper officer defined under the act. So maybe the audit is conducted by one person and the show cause notice and recovery is done by other officer. So again, there are some key audit manual, who are the large taxpayers, who are medium. So large taxpayer is anybody who is having above 40 crores tax liability. Medium is for 10 to 40 crores and small is 10 crores. Number of days, again, for the conduct of audit may be increased proportionately. So if you are doing this, limit is for 1 year. So number of days, if you see for large, it is 6 to 8 working days. For medium, 4 to 6. For small, 2 to 4. This is for 1 year. So if they are doing for 2 years, a 25% additional time is added in this number of working days. So for audit plan approval, so there has to be a plan for audit. For large and medium, generally additional and joint commissioner will be involved for making the plan, and for small, deputy commissioner and assistant commissioner. So these are basically the tips how to handle the audit. Mind you, I think this audit season is going to start, and you can see, because in 3 days paper also the finance secretary has told, and the GST commissioner also has told, audits and scrutiny is going to increase to increase the compliance and increase the revenue. So you can see the audits starting now vigorously and even scrutiny. So better be prepared. So what are the do's and don'ts of audit? Comply with the audit notice within time frame. So don't delay, don't ignore. Comply with the notice. If it takes time, take additional time. Maintain state-wise master file. So keep the data ready. When you're finalizing your accounts, keep the data ready. How you arrived at the GST figures, rate-wise, HSN code-wise, and keep all the working papers ready so that last minute when the audit notice comes, you don't struggle. You have the data with you. Don't make verbal communication. Don't ever, if anybody calls in phone and asks you detail, you give reply. You give the reply in writing telling, I got a call and you asked for these details. I am providing you these details based on the telephonic conversation. So don't ever give any reply verbally. Always keep everything in writing and take an acknowledgement. Don't argue with the officers. Of course, this we have learned in our day-to-day professional life. Let it be by way of written submission. Don't get frightened by any adverse finding. So we always get worked up when we see notices. There is nothing to be worried about notice. It is a standard procedure to get the information by the department. Take it easy and in a polite manner respond. Maintain transaction specific document. Like I told, keep all the data always ready before. To corroborate tax positions by conducting an internal review of GST policies. See, it's very, very important in today's scenario when GST audits are gone for the companies to have a review of their GST. When we are living in this self-assessment era, and when we talk about this scrutiny and audits, it's very, very important. GST compliances are verified by the companies by engaging professionals and ensuring that GSTs are paid in time and all the documentations are done correctly. It is very, very important. You are well prepared before all these notices and audit have started. Don't accept any demand unless the same is confirmed to you. So you don't accept any demand. It is very clearly told in many courts. Recently in Madras High Court also, it was very clearly told, if there is a inspection, survey, search, they cannot demand money from you. If there is an inspection, if there is a search, they find any goods, they can confiscate that goods. They can keep it at that place or keep it at your place, lock and key, but they cannot demand money. The procedure to demand money is through section 73-74 only. So very, very clearly, if any inspection happens, ensure money is not paid unless it is informed to you and voluntarily you accept it. Never misguide or make any wrong assertion. So don't bluff. Be straight. Any gaps arising out of 3B, 2A reconciliation, it must be identified and documented. Keep departmental communication file ready. So keep always the departmental communication separately with you. So all the communication with the department, whether it's an online notice, online reply, take a print, keep it in the file. Never try to avoid officers or adopt non-cooperative attitude. So I think this is very, very wrong. Even department officers also are good. It is not necessary that everyone is bad. Most of them are good. If you give them information correctly, they also try to close matter in a very non-controversial manner. Don't allow inexperienced employee to attend the audit. So some non-experienced guy gives the information, he may give some wrong information, something else they will understand. So ensure the person who is responsible gives the information to the audit. So any operation carried out by statutory authority invested with powers of search by inspection seizure by reason only of such activities having been carried out in residence in office. So this is basically the particular case law says if any inspection search seizure has to happen, it can happen. The Act has given them powers to do such activity and it is not ultra vires. Audit under section 65 is independent of investigation under 67. So audit can happen simultaneously and inspection also can happen simultaneously. So these two are two different areas together altogether, and it can happen parallelly. Again, special audit by department. I will rush through this topic. Special audit is basically if during any scrutiny, inquiry, investigation, if the department finds out okay, there is some issue in this case and they have to do an audit. It can be because of nature and complexity of the case, which they cannot find out in the scrutiny or in this procedure, or value declared is not correct, credit availed is not as per the limits. Then the officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner get an approval from commissioner, may direct the registered person in ADT 03 to get his accounts, books of accounts, audited by a CA or a cost accountant who is nominated. So there will be an empaneled CA or a cost accountant. So they have to be appointed and done the audit. It is irrespective of any other audit the registered person might have done. So he might have done his statutory audit or a Companies Act audit or a tax audit. Irrespective of that, this audit can be done. Such nominated CA or cost accountant has to submit the report within 90 days. So within 90 days, they have to give the report. 90 days extension can be done by AC on request of either the registered person or the CA. On conclusion of audit, registered person to be informed of ADT 04. So ADT 03 is the notice to conduct the audit. ADT 04 is the final findings of the audit. So special audit by department, again, opportunity of being heard to be given to the registered person. So this is very clearly mentioned in this section particularly, where you cannot just give a finding, you have to give an opportunity of being heard. Expense of, that is the professional fees of the CA, will be paid by the commissioner. It will not be paid by the registered person. We don't know till now, this process has not come. So whether department will pay or they will recover in some way from the registered person, we don't know. On the basis of the above audit, if any liability is there, proceedings will be initiated under section 73, 74. So similarity between provisions of 65, 66, that is departmental normal audit and special audit. Audit under any other law is immaterial. So whatever any other audits you do under another act, it still you have to do audit under this. Audit of registered person only. Recovery is always under section 73, 74. An opportunity of being heard is there in both the cases. So what is the difference is, audit will be done by officers here. Here it will be by CAs or a cost accountant. Pending proceedings, not necessary. There has to be some, audit can be done under normal, it's a normal procedure. Whereas in 66, there has to be a scrutiny, there has to be some proceedings which will be happening, which will direct them to do a special audit. Time limit is 3 months here plus 6 months. Here 90 days plus 90 days. Audit will be done by the commissioner or person authorized by the commissioner. In special audit by the assistant commissioner and above with the prior approval of commissioner. So I'm not going to detail here. ADT 1 notice, ADT 2 is the report for normal audit, and special audit ADT 03 and 4. Can service tax audit be conducted in GST regime? This is a very important discussion nowadays going. Can service tax audit be conducted now? Answer is yes, because GST has included this provision which empowers the authorities to institute any investigation, inquiry, verification, assessment proceedings, adjudication, etc., including service tax audit under Rule 5A. So this particular section gives power to the officers to conduct service tax audit. What happens if HSC does not comply with the notice of section 65-66? Any thoughts? Suppose if any notice comes and you don't respond to it, what happens?
Best judgment assessment.
Best judgment will be there only if you don't find difference or Puja is going on. Okay. Yeah, so it is basically 73, 74 show cause notice will be issued and details will be asked for. And if 73, 74 also is not responded, then subsequently recovery proceedings may start. Can department call any other records other than financial statement? Yes. Can department conduct audit of registered person for a period less than a financial year? Yes. Can proper officer call for data and information of the registered person submitted to banks and financial institutions? Yes. Can audit report prepared by officer be shared with SSC? Of course, they have to share. What will be the maximum period for coverage under audit by the department? What can be the maximum period for coverage under the audit by the department? It's a very important point. Can anybody tell what is the maximum period you can select for an audit? They have told financial year, multiples of it or part thereof. They have never told the maximum period of audit. So what is the maximum period they can stretch? Any answer?
Just my guess, sir. I have not read the portion. Still, as per the GST law, how long the documents or accounts to be maintained? To that extent, they may stretch.
See, there is a time limit to issue notice under section 73. There is a time limit to issue notice under section 74. So audit is only a process to check your books of accounts or check your data. If there is a liability, notice has to be issued under section 73, 74. So if it is a fraud case, it is non-fraud case, it is 73. Fraud case is 74. So there is a time limit which I'll come to, which is 3 years basically for 73 and 5 years for 74. So suppose if for 4 years they don't do an audit for you and suddenly they come and do audit for 4 years. What happens is this particular 1 year which has got expired, they cannot issue notice under section 73 if it is a non-fraud case because the time limit in section 73 is already over. So section 73, 74 will play a very important role in conducting the audit. So even though for a procedural purpose they may conduct the audit, they cannot issue any notice under section 73. So the time limit of 73, 74 has to be kept in mind. So anyway, you can skip that. So now we'll come to